Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, April the 24th, and here are the headlines today. Currently, we have showers and thunderstorms moving through the southern Great Plains and into the southeast, some of which will be severe. And we will see a second round of thunderstorms fire up in Oklahoma in particular, moving into northeastern Texas as we move through the day Friday. However, mostly beneficial rain is moving into the Ohio Valley and the Midwest Friday morning, and this will begin to march off to the east into the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast during the day Saturday. Now, this rainfall is being generated ahead of a trough moving out of the northern Rockies and into places such as Montana, the Dakotas, and Minnesota. And we're actually seeing snowfall over the state of Wyoming, moderate to heavy snowfall near Jackson Hole, near the Grand Tetons there in western Wyoming. And this will likely continue, as well as some below average temperatures for this time of year in the northern Great Plains and parts of the Rocky Mountains. Meanwhile, we'll have additional chances of severe weather moving into the weekend and early next week. Well, guys, that's it for the headlines. Let's now dive into the details. Well, guys, I wanted to begin by looking at the showers and thunderstorms that were occurring here in Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. And this entire area began to move further off to the south before falling apart in southern Arkansas and northern Louisiana. But as we got into Friday evening, you'll see this other line of showers and thunderstorms develop over northeastern Texas, and that continues to push off southward towards the Gulf of Mexico. Notice also over the Midwest here in Illinois, you can see this rainfall regenerating in the afternoon here and pushing off to the east, affecting the rest of the Ohio Valley from Indiana into Ohio, parts of Kentucky here. And then a steadier rain is falling over Michigan, and we can see probably amounts over a half an inch of rain in the lower peninsula there of Michigan, especially places like Detroit as we move into Friday evening. Also, take note of this 540 line here over the northern tier of the country, where we have temperatures now below freezing over the Intermountain West here and portions of Wyoming, also Montana and Idaho. This area here in particular along that boundary here, let's say in northern Wyoming, these guys can pick up over 6 inches of snowfall easily, especially around places like Jackson Hole here near the Grand Tetons. This is a closer look at the south central portion of the United States here, and we can see in parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and even Texas, we got some very strong showers and thunderstorms moving throughout the day. Now, the first round will move through Oklahoma, Arkansas, northern Louisiana, Mississippi, early in the day Friday, perhaps through mid-afternoon. And then later in the afternoon, take note of northeastern Texas here. We're going to have a secondary line fire here. And this will likely be the severe weather during the day Friday. And this will continue into Friday evening. And don't be surprised if you see some severe thunderstorms and even an isolated tornado here Friday evening. Now, all the severe weather that we've been seeing the last couple of days is due in large part to these low-pressure systems forming over the Great Plains. And if we look at Thursday in particular, we see this low-pressure system between, let's say, Oklahoma State and Kansas State, and this provided some low-level convergence, which provides instability to the atmosphere. Now, the winds here for the day Thursday, at the surface at least, were out of the south, and we saw winds about 10 to 20 knots here near the surface. However, this is in contrast to what we're seeing just off to the west of this yellow region. Take a look at this blue region here over western Texas, western Oklahoma, western Kansas. These are deeper blues here that we're seeing on the map, and they're indicating dew points in the 20s. And this is quite the difference here between, let's say, moisture in the lower atmosphere. And what we call this here, this sharp contrast in dew point temperature, we call that the dry line here. And this dry line can be a trigger for strong to severe thunderstorms, especially in the spring. One thing you can't see on this map is the elevation of the winds. Now, you have to take my word for it here, but this area in yellow is mainly flat here. We're talking about elevations maybe 500 to 1,000 feet. But if you get out here over western Texas, into eastern, let's say, Colorado, eastern New Mexico, those elevations really rise up into several thousands of feet. And if you were to go out towards Denver, for instance, the elevation is closer to 5,000 feet. And the winds in particular over New Mexico and over Colorado are out of the west. So they contrast the winds that we're seeing over the Great Plains. Now this next slide I want to share with you guys points out two different things. And I want to point out that this rib box here to the left is winds at the surface. And then this green box off to the right is winds above the surface. And we're talking about pretty high up in the troposphere here. So this is important because this can create spin according to how the winds change with height. So I've highlighted a particular location here over southern Kansas, again, which happened to have a lot of activity during the day Thursday. And this particular model run here, this is the HRR model run, high resolution, we can see that we have winds near the surface of about 20 knots. Now if you were to zoom in on this map, you'd notice that we'd have winds out of the south, and in general around that location you'd have two wind barbs, which would indicate 10 knots apiece or 20 knots. Now to contrast that with the winds much above the surface here, near the top of the troposphere, around 300 millibars. Now if we were to look at this same location here, I'll kind of circle it in for you guys. In general, you would notice that there's a change in symbol. You notice a solid triangle here that's kind of shaded in, and you'd also notice one single barb. And what that would indicate to you is 50 plus 10, because that triangle here in this case indicates 50 knots. So wind speeds of about 60 knots overhead. And perhaps what is most important here is not the change in wind speed, but change in wind direction here as we rise with height. And this middle image here is to show the difference. So looking at this box here, this is representative of the atmosphere as you rise up from the surface to the top of the troposphere. So again, the very bottom of this box would represent the ground level or the surface. And the top of this box would represent the top of our troposphere. Also, to kind of simplify things, I've drawn out a compass here to the left side that can kind of indicate what the direction would be or where the winds are coming from. Again, taking account of our rib box here off to the left, I've indicated the symbol here that we'd commonly find in that location. Again, I'm showing the winds out of the south, and I'm showing you the two wind barbs indicating the 20 knots. And then just above it here in the green box, again above 500 millibars in the troposphere, we'd see the symbol of a triangle and one single barb. And again, that would be 50 plus 10 or 60 knots here. And just like spinning a quarter, again, if you push from two different directions, you can create spin in the atmosphere. So guys, I do want to share a sounding with you from the same area that had the tornado on Thursday. And there's two lines in particular you need to take a look at. We have this white dashed line off to the right. That's indicating the parcel path of a, let's say, moist parcel of air rising up from the surface. And all that means is that it's fully saturated. It's filled with water, more or less. And how that would actually cool with height compared to the air around it. And to see the temperature of the air around it, we have this line just off to the left of it. Now the big takeaway here is the separation between the two lines. If you take away nothing else, the greater the separation between the two, the more instability we have in the atmosphere. And on this day, we actually had a lot of convective available potential energy. So they call this area here CAPE for that reason. This tells us how much energy is available to the developing thunderstorms for that day. So to develop strong thunderstorms, you typically need at least 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. However, during the day Thursday, we had about 4,000 joules per kilogram available to any thunderstorm that developed in southern Kansas, including the one that developed a tornado Friday evening. Now, we mentioned the importance of CAPE, and on a day like Thursday, we had a tremendous amount available. to these thunderstorms that were developing Friday afternoon and Friday evening. But we also had this wind shear right in place. And those are two major factors to the development not only of a strong thunderstorm, but also tornadoes. And there's something called the significant tornado parameter that if you go to a site like Pivotal Weather will actually provide for you. And this is something I'd recommend to any enthusiast, right, that wants to know more about the potential for tornadic activity. And this is the high-resolution model, the HRR, from this website, Pivotal Weather. And what it showed for Thursday afternoon was this area around southern Kansas in purple. And that indicates a 4 out of 10 chance of a tornado forming here. Now, this doesn't mean a tornado is definitely going to happen, right, when you see a 4 out of 10 chance, but it does show you that there's a good possibility, at least, in this particular area. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center on Thursday had this area between Wichita, Kansas, and Kansas City highlighted for the potential of severe weather, and it was an enhanced potential there. And if you were to look at the details for this orange area here on the map, you would read and find that there was the potential for tornadic activity here due again to the wind shear and also the high Cape values forecast for Thursday afternoon. Now, we did see severe weather from Oklahoma through, let's say, southern portions of Minnesota here. So this came to fruition here, this area that we see in yellow that had a slight chance. So again, if you want to look for the potential of severe weather, the Storm Prediction Center is a good resource to get severe weather information. Now, during the day Friday, we're going to have another area of low pressure over Texas and Oklahoma. And again, that will provide some additional lift there around the low pressure system. And generally to the south and east of a low pressure system is where we find the most instability. So again, we have converging winds at the surface due to this system, but we also have, again, the high dew points right over eastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas, Louisiana. So we have that. One of the things we don't have in place that we saw during the day Thursday is the addition of that dry line in that location. You'll notice that the dry line is still located here over western Texas. So there's some separation between these severe thunderstorms that will develop in eastern Texas and the dry line that's positioned on the other side of the state. Now, this will have a tendency to lower Cape values and wind shear over the southern plains and the southeast as we move through the day Friday. Now, looking at the showers and thunderstorms here, we can see over Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, the showers and thunderstorms firing up here and moving to the south and east during the day Friday into Friday afternoon. And then you'll notice a secondary line here. This is a separate model here showing thunderstorms firing over southeastern Oklahoma. I would say that this is trending further south and west, however. So I would look out in portions of northeastern Texas here for development, as this line has been trending further south and west with time. And in particular, as we move into Friday evening, again, this is probably the time where we'll see, again, south of the Red River here between Texas and Oklahoma, that's where we'll see the development of severe thunderstorms and maybe even a few isolated tornadoes. Now, the Storm Prediction Center is predicting less of a chance here of severe weather, even though there is the potential for strong straight-line winds. Maybe a bow echo could form in these thunderstorms that are developing. One thing we'll notice is that there is less of a chance of tornadoes, again, because of the lower Cape values, the lower wind shear values. But we do have those higher dew points in place, right, over eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma. And we have that low pressure system over places like Abilene and Dallas, Texas. Again, that will provide some lift to the atmosphere, and we'll tend to get these thunderstorms going by Friday afternoon. I do want to point out that there is another area here between Indianapolis and Fort Wayne, extending eastward to Columbus here over the Ohio Valley, that could receive some severe weather. Again, we're just talking about mainly strong thunderstorms here, really no tornadoes to speak of in this area. And again, the likelihood of rainfall will begin to push off eastward into the mid-Atlantic and eventually the northeast as we move into the day Saturday. Now, as we move into the day Saturday, we have yet another closed low here over Texas. And notice its position this time. It's to the left of the dry line, which is going to be a perfect location if this pans out for these firing of thunderstorms, which will likely be severe in northern portions of Texas, Oklahoma, maybe into southern Kansas once again, maybe as far east there as Arkansas and Louisiana. We could see a large area here of severe thunderstorms over the southern plains here during the day Saturday. And in fact, there might be an enhanced risk. We'll take a look at that here in just a few moments. But again, this low pressure system is in line with the dry line itself. Again, separating those very low dew points in western Texas and the very humid air in eastern Texas. So we definitely have the dry line in place. We have the higher dew points in place. And we will have the wind shear as well, with winds directly out of the west here over western Texas, and out of the south here over eastern Texas. So there's going to be plenty of spin in the atmosphere as a result. Also take note of the closed low here over the mid-Atlantic. This will help to form some precipitation here over the mid-Atlantic and possibly the northeast moving into the weekend. So this will be beneficial rain for many of you in this region where you've been experiencing drought conditions for several months. In fact, here is the Storm Prediction Center's forecast here for Saturday. We see that enhanced area of severe weather possible from Oklahoma City into Tulsa, also Woodward, Oklahoma, Wichita, Kansas. Again, many of the same areas here that have been experiencing severe weather for the last several weeks. And the slight risk even expands in through much of Kansas here, western Missouri, western Arkansas, extending southward into Louisiana here. So a large area here has a slight risk, at least, of severe weather during the day Saturday here. And this will only continue through Sunday and possibly into Monday and Tuesday next week. This is due in large part, again, to that trough that's kind of hanging tight over the northern Great Plains and also the Intermountain West. That'll be providing cooler and drier air moving over the Rockies, colliding with that warm, moist air over the Great Plains. And here's a look at the severe weather outlook for Sunday. And you'll notice that we already have a 15% chance of severe weather over Oklahoma, Kansas, western Missouri, western Arkansas once again. And then we have a 30% chance over Oklahoma City, Tulsa, up into Wichita, Kansas. So without a doubt, I think this will be the case as we get into Sunday. Might see an expansion of this area highlighted on the map. Well guys, we'll leave it at that today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like or subscribe as it does help the channel. Now, if you have any questions about what we discussed today, just leave those in the comments down below. Otherwise, I hope you have a safe weekend. I hope to see you Monday for the next video. Bye for now.